And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire you whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
Well, welcome once again to Hamilton in New Zealand. We're at Seddon Park. Hector Vickers has yet again been taking in all the action for us. Welcome, Hector. How is your day?
Evening, Messi. Good day. I really enjoyed today. I know it didn't go England's way. They're just walking across right now. I'm worried that the sprinklers are going to come back on and embarrass me. But yeah.
We've got to keep you on your toes. It actually keeps our audience excited at the prospect of you having to run away from the sprinklers, so that's good. So at the end of the day, New Zealand were dismissed finally in their first innings for 347. England batted and were rolled for 143, and batting again, New Zealand 136 for 3. So at the end of day two, New Zealand lead by 340 runs in their second innings. So take us through it from the beginning, if you would, please, Hector. I think New Zealand resumed on 9 wickets down, did they not?
Yeah, they did. And I don't think anyone could have predicted sort of how the day would unfold. It started off with a really peculiar hour. 9 wickets down. New Zealand started on 315. Santner and Will O'Rourke at the crease. And yeah, England spread the field to Santner. Obviously came in close to O'Rourke, as you do. But on the last ball, or a couple of balls before the end of an over, you'd think that you'd bring the field in to sort of keep O'Rourke on strike for the next over. But they didn't do that. So Santner was really, really happy, just ticking along in singles. It's pretty easy to score runs. I think he got 3 boundaries. And they ended up adding another 32 to their 44-run partnership. And yeah, they finished on 347. Matty Potts got his 4th wicket, bowling Santner straight after drinks, where it looked as if they might even push until lunch at that point. But yeah, so 347 all out, and yeah, New Zealand probably were the happier of the two going into the break.
I can imagine. It's a little bewildering the way England played in that first hour. It seemed to me that there was no sort of sense of these are the tail enders. Let's get them out.
Yeah, I mean they didn't even go to the short ball straight away, which you think that in the sort of baseball era they tend to. But yeah, they bowled full and kept to their lines for the first hour, which, as you say, was pretty bewildering.
So when England went into bat, they seemed to start all right initially. Yeah,
Crawley, again, he's having a poor series, but Tim Southey, bowling from the Tim Southey end, was hit for 4 fours, all on the drive by Crawley in the second over the day. Tim Southey's first. So it sort of seemed, oh, fuck, sprinklers are on.
Oh, well.
So, yeah, sort of seemed, I think I'll be all right. Sort of seen that Crawley was set for a big one, but yeah, Matt Henry still has his number. He's now got him 5 out of 5 this series. I think all time in his career, Crawley is 19 for 7 against Matt Henry at the moment.
Whoa! That's got to be the bunny of all time, hasn't it?
Yeah, you'd think. And yeah, so he fell for 21 or 14. Matt Henry took a great caught and bowled, and then Duckett fell 2 overs after that. Matt Henry again trapped him on the pads, bowling a touch filler, and Duckett fell for 11. Bethlehem Root then steered England to lunch at 54 for 2. So at lunch, it was sort of evenly poised, with the wealth of batting that England had to come. You'd think that they could sort of play out the day, and the wicket was hardening up, and the out was really quick. So you'd think that they'd be able to get pretty close to that total. But yeah, sort of what was to follow was not expected by anyone.
So what did happen after lunch?
Well, Will O'Rourke, the main change was Will O'Rourke came on from the Tim Southey end, and he looked completely different to how he has in the first 2 tests. He was bowling a lot quicker, averaged 87 miles an hour in his first spell. But the more important thing was the seam that he was getting, the swing that he was getting. He was averaging 2.3 degrees, which I think is quite a lot. Oh, here it comes. Considering he's averaged just under 1 degree in the first 2 tests. So he was going to the short ball a lot, really unsettled Bethel in particular and Root. And yeah, he cleaned up in the space of 8 balls, got Bethel, Root, and Brooke. Most importantly, Brooke got us. Oh, that's a real shame. That is a real shame. And
Oh
that is,
dear.
I don't know if you can see behind me, but that is Joe Root and Harry Brooke.
Oh,
That's embarrassing.
oh dear. No. This is all down to experience, Harry. And it adds to the likelihood of our video going viral. You getting dumped on by the sprinklers.
Is it worth it? Probably not. That's pretty cold. Nice and refreshing though.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Bethel. Coming in at number 3, he's had a bit of a dream run so far, I would say. It seemed to me he was facing some quite intelligent bowling, challenging him not on the stumps so much, but outside the stumps where his footwork's not the greatest, but he's relied on his hand-eye coordination for his brilliance to date. He seemed really challenged today in that spot. Yeah,
well, we were discussing this earlier. It sort of seems like Bethel's got 2 big scores, obviously the 50 and the 96, I think it was, in Wellington. And he's got those 2 scores in the second innings where it's pretty easy to bat on. But if you look at his first innings, he actually hasn't done too well. It looks like he can score runs when the conditions are easy, but he's just lacking that little bit of graft. As you say, they were pushing it pretty wide to him. And then when O'Rourke came on, they forced him to duck out the way of a fair few, which is strange because he quite likes the pull shot. And yeah, so he dug in, faced 33 balls and only scored 12, which is pretty unlike him. But Glenn Phillips ended up taking another specky at points, diving again, mid-air diving. So he's a little bit unlucky with that wicket. But yeah, he sort of seems a little bit. Everyone's hyping him up, which I guess is fair considering his 2 scores. But if you look at his first innings, he hasn't actually fared too
well. And Joe Root was actually looking quite good until all of a sudden he got out.
Yeah, Root was looking good. He was just rushed into. He was trying to duck again. It was O'Rourke. Just had so much momentum from the southie end, getting, as I say, 87 miles an hour, a lot of bounce. Root was looking great on the front foot, but then O'Rourke sort of cramped him up, and Root tried to duck away from it and ended up just poking his bat out, trying to sort of flick it over the slip region. But yeah, just went straight to Will Young, 3rd slip, I think it was, which is pretty disappointing for him. But 32 or 42, he looked really good. But as I say, the main event of today was Harry Brooke, first ever golden duck in his Test match career, and weirdly the first ever time he's been dismissed for less than 50 than a New Zealand bowler in his Test match career.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, it was bound to happen sooner or later, wasn't it?
yeah, it was. But yeah, it was O'Rourke again. The ball after he got Bethel, again, just found that little bit of extra bounce, popped up probably a little bit higher than Brooke was expecting. So he sort of rocked back onto his toes and found an inside edge and played onto the stumps. But that was sort of the point at which he sort of thought that New Zealand were just on a roll, and it would be pretty hard to stop them from there.
Yeah, and so it proved. Stokes dug in for a while, and he and Pope were pretty reasonable, but the tail folded. I think 5 wickets for 9 runs was pretty abysmal.
5 wickets for 9 runs, and the last 8 wickets fell for 64 runs. Right. And if you consider the 52-run partnership that Stokes and Pope had in between there, I mean, it's not great. But yeah, as you say, Stokes and Pope in particular looked pretty comfortable. He ended up getting caught at slip, just poking at a length ball by Santner. Santner was the first sign of spin we've seen all game, and he ended up taking 3 wickets. So that's sort of questionable why Bashir hasn't been as involved as he had been. And then Stokes fell again to Santner trying to do a big slog sweep and ended up missing it, and Plum got caught Plum LBW.
Yeah, I mean, 3 for 7 for 3 overs for Santner is pretty impressive, considering too that Pope and Stokes aren't exactly tail enders. He's cleaning up.
Well, yeah, and also the fact that he hasn't bowled in a red ball match since India, and obviously
Yeah.
here are different conditions, so he had to have a different plan. But he seemed ready, and what a match he's having with a 75 earlier in the day and those 3 wickets.
So we end up then with a situation where England are all out for 143. Matt Henry with 4 wickets, Will O'Rourke with 3, and Santner with 3. And you've got to say, each of them bowled beautifully. Southey none for 46. It sort of felt like it's time for him, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't going to go any other way, unfortunately. It seems like Southey's probably in the team for his batting at this point. So yeah, it was a 3-man bowling attack today, but England just completely bamboozled. 143 all out, as you say, lost those last 5 wickets for 9 runs, and Matt Henry just came on at the end and was pretty clinical, finished off Gus Atkinson and then Matty Potts pretty quickly. And yeah, they were only out there for 35 overs, so I can imagine the fast bowlers weren't a bit too happy having to go back out again after tea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they didn't look too energized when New Zealand started batting again.
No.
And so how did the New Zealand innings start out?
Yeah, well, as you say, the bowlers just seemed pretty cooked on their feet. Matty Potts started the innings with a loosener down leg side, as he did in the first innings. Latham and Young looked pretty settled until Latham sort of gifted Atkinson a wicket, similar to the Brook one, but more self-inflicted, just playing onto a stumps on the back foot. And then Will Young and Kane Williamson just seemed to make it look like scoring runs was the easiest thing in the world here at Seddon Park, which it looked to be this evening session. Young fell for 60 off 85, really tame pull shot off Ben Stokes, who was just going back to his good old short ball barrage, and yeah, found Jacob Bethel at mid wicket. And then Will O'Rourke was sent out again. He's done a lot today. He was sent out as the night watchman, which is pretty peculiar considering there are about 25 minutes left in the day. Yeah. He didn't last long. He seemed pretty cooked in the post-match interview. He was there for 8 balls, nicked off to Ollie Pope. Ben Stokes got a second wicket, and then Ravindra joined Williamson at the crease, and together the two steered them towards stumps. Finished on 136 for 3, and Williamson brought up his 50, just 58 balls, which is pretty quick for him.
Yeah. He's looking beautiful, which he has previously, and then suddenly got out. So at the end of the day, England are pretty much fucked. They're 340 runs behind, and 7 New Zealand wickets to come. The sense I have watching is that England just want to get home now. What's the point? So the fielding was pretty shabby in the second innings in particular, and it's like, we've won the series. Who cares?
It seems to be that way. Yeah. I think the only fielder that really looks up for it is Jacob Bethel. He's running around all the time, but the more experienced players just seem to have already thrown them.
Shoaib Bashir had done a lot of fielding until he finally got to bowl 5 overs, which were sort of acceptable, but not great, I think is a fair way of putting it. My sense is that where Stokes was very strongly supporting Bashir through the first few tests, he's almost ignored him for this test. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, so that was one of the things I asked. England sent Paul Collingwood out for the post-day conference. Which apparently they do quite a lot with Jeetan Patel and Collingwood. But yeah, so I asked what the sort of reasoning behind it was, especially how effective Santner was in only the 3 or 4 overs that he bowled in the afternoon. And he sort of said Stokes is very like an instinctive player, and they didn't think that there was much spin on offer. But apparently tomorrow he's going to have a big role to play as they're expecting it to turn quite a bit tomorrow morning. So yeah, hopefully we'll see him a bit more. But it does seem a bit weird considering the amount he's bowled this year for the final test.
Yeah,
he's almost been rested.
Yeah, I mean, weird things have happened with this England team. You can't see them getting to chase much less than 500 at best. So
I'd say, I think they need a collapse that they had today, I think if they are looking at 415, they will genuinely believe that they can do it. And anything over 450, they'll say they believe, but deep down they'll just be swinging from the hip. But I think 415 odd, and they might have a game on. But
yeah. So I'm assuming that the mood in the crowd was a little more elevated than it was yesterday, was it? I
think so, yeah. Again, there weren't that many people here today in comparison to the first two, but it did seem that everyone was a little bit more up for it, especially when Will O'Rourke got going. That was a pretty cool atmosphere. But yeah, I mean, one thing about Seddon Park is that the outfields are really quick.
Yeah.
And the wicket's been a bit spongy so far, but apparently it's meant to harden up tomorrow. And if you look at how Williamson's been batting, it looks pretty easy to score runs. So there is a slim chance, but yeah, it would have to take a bit of a miracle for England to get a result.
Okay, so was there anything else that came out of the press conferences that might interest us?
Collingwood confirmed that the fast bowlers were not happy to have to go out again after tea. There's a bit of talk around Crawley's poor form since his finger injury, but Collingwood just says that apparently he's timing the ball better than he's ever seen in the net, and he's hungry for runs. So I mean, that just tells you everything. And New Zealand sent Will O'Rourke, who's pretty knackered. Said he loves being the night watchman, and he hinted at deserving a few more wickets himself in Wellington, which I think is justifiable.
Yeah.
Not much else.
Okay, so tomorrow may or may not be the last day of this series, but I'm hoping you are not going to get too exhausted by whatever you get up to tonight, Hector, and are back with us chipper for tomorrow.
Yes, 100%. I think it's meant to be raining a bit tomorrow morning, so hopefully we'll get a day fall. But
well, that would be ironic, wouldn't it? If the only time it rained was when England was in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's quite solid rain predicted for the morning session tomorrow. So we shall have to see. Okay, well, thank you so much for that, Hector. Of course, recognizing it is only day 3 tomorrow, and the following 2 days are forecast to be totally fine. So it's unlikely to save England anyway. We look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Messi.
And now it's time for